Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Becoming You podcast. Today's topic is what are the four most common misconceptions around what it means to be a gentle parent? Now, I wanted to record this episode because some of you might be holding back on going fully in on the journey to become a conscious, more gentle parent and parenting techniques. Because maybe one of these, misconceptions is kind of rolling around in your head and holding you back because you're worried that something might ultimately go wrong with your child or with your parent-child relationship, and your child's going to end up all wrong, right? So let's get into it. And then at the end, we'll really talk about, what does gentle parenting actually mean? All right. So the number one misconception that I find around gentle parenting or conscious parenting is that it ultimately means they equate gentle parenting into permissive parenting. And what that basically means is that, I'm giving permission for my kids to be in control. That's essentially what permissive parenting means. And that type of parenting does exist, where, the parents basically say yes to everything. They let their, children make huge messes in their house. They let their child's, roam to be super messy. Like, I can't think of examples outside of messiness. But what's basically happening in that household is the parents allow the kids to pretty much get up to anything and everything. Right. And it could be something like, hey, I really want to try pot for the first time. And the parents like, sure, bring the pot over. Like, let's smoke it together. Right. Like, that's an extreme example. But the idea behind it, and I'm not a judge, like to say which, style of parenting is correct. But the idea behind permissive parenting is that I'd rather I think my kids learn best through mistakes. And if they're going to try dangerous things, I would rather be in it with them, which, more power to you if you're willing to do that. But I think a lot of us are not willing to go that far, right? And that's really not what permissive parenting is about. That's really not what conscious parenting is about. It is not about letting your child, lead the way. So first of all, if that's what you're worried, you can stop worrying and not be so scared. Gentle parenting or conscious parenting is really about being an empathetic listener and a gentle guide to your children, right? And it's not about letting your kids be in control. It's really not about that. And it's less about, so you are essentially the authority here. Because you've lived longer and have more life experience, you are still the leader, right? I think in permissive parenting, kids can feel very insecure because what kids want to know is, do you feel secure in leading me, right? Think about in your own company, if you work or, if you are in an uncertain territory, right? Like you're going on a hike, right? And it's your first time or second time, like you're a novice and you want somebody leading that hike who's done it 100 times, right? And 100 different ways and have made all the mistakes. And they feel really confident in where they are leading you, right? You don't want them to be like, hey, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And you're like, what? I am here because I was hoping that you knew what to do so that I wouldn't feel so scared. So you want that leader to not be scared. You want that leader to feel secure. And even if, they lost their way, you don't want them to show it. And you want them to lead the way. And our kids are the same way. They live in an environment and in a world that feels very uncertain, and a lot of times unsafe world. And they want to be led by parents who feel very secure in themselves, right? And so gentle or conscious parenting is really about knowing for yourself like that you can lead your child. It's not about telling your child what to do, but it's about helping remind your children, like you can be safe in who you are being. I am a safe lighthouse and a harbor that you can reach out to if you're not feeling certain. And it's about being a gentle guide. I love those words, right? You are the leader and a gentle guide instead of being an authoritarian demanding that they do things your way. you're more the gentle guide of like, hey, listen, this is safe, this is unsafe, and really presenting them with everything, right? So this takes compassion, this takes patience, this takes more time. So gentle parenting is not about being saying yes to everything. It's actually drawing really clear boundaries and bringing them back to those boundaries, and and involving your children in those conversations and leading by example, right? That's really what gentle parenting is about. So, misconception number 2 is that I can't discipline my children if I'm being a gentle parent. And this kind of relates and ties into point number 1, right? In permissive parenting, there is no disciplining happening a lot, unless maybe there's real danger to the child's life. So if you want to go ahead and break that, go ahead and break that, right? That's not what gentle parenting is about. It's you can absolutely discipline your children, but it really disciplining is, as an authoritarian parent, discipline is very different to how a gentle parent would discipline. So disciplining as an authoritarian parent means there's going to be severe consequences in place. And a lot of the time, those consequences are not natural consequences. They're completely unrelated, right? Like you don't eat your dinner, you don't get TV the next day. That's what I call unrelated consequences. Like the consequence makes no sense. It's not even remotely linked to what their action is or their mistake is. And it's using discipline as a fear tactic to get your children to comply, right? Whereas in gentle parenting, you're using natural consequences, right? Which might be like, for instance, I'm really struggling with my kids to keep their room clean right now. And there's Legos all over the floor from a younger son, and it drives me insane every time I go into his room. And so, as a gentle parent, I have a few choices. One, I can be like, what I want goes in this house because I'm the adult, I'm the parent. So that means no messy rooms in this house, right? And that is authoritarian, meaning that my word supersedes everyone else's needs. And, so that could be demanding and punishing him, saying, if your room isn't cleaned up, your room isn't clean, so you're not going to get TV, right? The room being clean and the Legos being clean has nothing to do with screen time. And so therefore, that's what maybe an authoritarian parent would do with unnatural consequences to a rule that they are hoping to implement. What this essentially creates is it makes a child hate cleaning up, right? What you want is to instill the habit and the value that cleanliness is actually really useful, that cleanliness makes you think clearly. It helps save you time because you know exactly where to find stuff. Cleanliness also indicates that you value the things that you have and, all those great benefits that come from cleanliness. Instead, when you punish them with unnatural consequences, what it teaches your child is that cleaning up sucks, right? Which essentially then leads to them, maybe they learn to clean up because, of the unnatural consequences, but ultimately they're hating it and they're doing it for the extrinsic motivation of not wanting to lose their screen time, but they're not essentially learning the value of having a clean room, right? So, and then it also does not take into effect that, shouldn't they have a space of their own that they get to treat like their own, right? Like entire house, you treat it like how you want to keep it, right? Like you decorate it the way you want, you decorate it the way you want to decorate it. There are systems in place in your house and rules in your house that it has nothing, your children's input is not in there at all. As an adult, you get complete control and agency. And so in our family, I really look at rooms, my kids' rooms. We're privileged enough that each of our kids have their own room. That my kids' rooms are really where they get to exert their sense of agency and power and control in their own environment, right? When they go to school, they don't really get a say on what that space looks like. And when they come home, I want my child to have a safe space, and it's not the entire house because I would go crazy, right? Permissive parenting would be, let's just, if you're going to make a mess, let's just make a mess. That's not drawing a boundary. But there is a physical boundary within the walls of his room that he gets to keep it messy. And I have to work on my discomfort to tolerate that messiness while at the same time working on helping him understand the value of a clean room. So, a natural consequence that I've implemented is that, our housekeeper is coming tomorrow to dust and vacuum the whole house. And so, if all the Legos are not picked up in time by the time she comes, then he has to clean up, dust and vacuum his own room. And again, I set a deadline by Wednesday evening, right? If this is a Tuesday, she's coming by Wednesday evening, it needs to be done. And then if it's not done, then there are more consequences that will come as a result of that, which we normally don't even get to. But you might have a child that, says, fine, I'll clean up my own room. And then that deadline isn't met. And then there might be an unrelated consequence in place, which is, then you do lose screen time because you don't want to go to screen time as the very first thing. What you want is to give them deadlines that they can work with, that is not, you're not setting them up to fail, right? What you're essentially doing is setting them up to succeed, which is giving them a little bit of time and then and then I'll be inviting questions with my child to be like, hey, how does it feel to go to bed in your room at night when the space is clean versus not clean, right? Really getting them to self-reflect on how does a clean room make me feel? And then, empathizing with them because he had a friend over to play and they made the mess together, right? And then now his friend obviously isn't here to clean it. And we can maybe make it fun. And I can help him get started on the cleaning and maybe set up some music that feels fun to play. So these are all things that I'm doing instead of disciplining, right? One, I'm really helping create a fun environment to get maybe something done that is not so fun. Two, I have taken the time to understand like where his reluctance to clean comes from, right? I don't expect him to just adopt my thought of a clean room is a great room. A clean room gives you a sense of calm, right? I am actually willing to put myself into someone else's shoes and try to understand the world from their perspective, which is maybe a messy room, right, isn't so bad for him, right? It feels like a terrible thing for me, but maybe it's not so bad and they can live with it. And if so, as long as it's contained within their room, what's the worst that can come of it, right? Because everywhere else I get my kids to clean up and they do. Like, if they make a mess in the dining room or the kitchen or the living room, every night they're expected to clean up their stuff before they go to bed. So in other ways, I am instilling that value, but where I let it go or relax a little bit is within their own rooms because I believe that your room should be a reflection of you. All right. So moving on to misconception number 3. Finishing off the thought from number 2 is that children can't be disciplined. And that comes from the fear of the only way that my children will learn right from wrong and become productive members of society is through discipline. And that is 100% not accurate or true. Number 3 misconception is that I have to be patient and calm and zen all the time if I'm going to be a gentle parent, and that feels impossible. So this relates to you putting unrealistic expectations and pressure on yourself to get something perfectly right, and the all or nothing attitude that unless I get it all fully right, it's not worth doing. So if this is a really interesting thing, because if you have these kind of thoughts, then most likely you are placing that same kind of unrealistic expectations on your children as well, especially when they're new to trying something. So for instance, if let's say, you're cooking and your child wants to come help, and without you knowing it, you unconsciously place a high level of expectation on how they perform. So if you give them a job to cut something, a cut of vegetable like carrots or zucchini or whatever, and it needs to be cut a specific way for your dish, you show them, you demonstrate to them how you want it cut, right? And then they start. And then they're really messy, right? They don't get all the pieces cut in an even way. So now your dish is going to have really uneven pieces of zucchini, which can mess up the flavor of the dish, right? Especially as adults, when you've been cooking for a long time, we all know the importance of getting uniform bite-sized pieces, right, to make the dish look aesthetically pleasing and taste really good. My mother has drilled into me the importance of cutting vegetables in a uniform way for dishes. And so when your child tries it for the first time and they're really messy and they just are not getting it, you can get really frustrated. And maybe you say, you know what, don't worry about it. I'll do it myself, which leaves the child feeling like not good enough. They might not say it, but it leaves them with this sense of, I'm not doing it right. And my mom doesn't want me to participate. And, you feel frustrated and you feel frustrated, right? And so this is how being really hard on yourself, and if you're a high performer and a high achiever and have very high expectations, we unknowingly pass that, like, that's how it translates when it comes to parenting. When your child spills a cup of milk, when you told them a million times, like, don't carry the milk and something else in your hand, right? And they go ahead and do it and they spill it and then you erupt. It's like, how many times have I told you not to do that? And look what's happened, right? And so it's completely okay that you have those kind of reactions and frustration. This is again, so as a gentle parent, you really give yourself permission to not get it right all the time because it's impossible to be zen and calm and never get frustrated with your children or never get angry or never yell. Okay. Gentle parenting really focuses also on the repairing of, like, when you don't regulate your emotions, when you lose it with your kids. And there are specific steps that you take as a gentle parent on how do I repair it and strengthen the trust and the respect and love more after the rupture and the repair than before. So I have this unique perspective that conflict with, our loved ones, as painful as it is and as hard as it is, leads to stronger relationships if it is treated correctly, right? And I apply that same thought to gentle parenting as well. I lose it often with my kids, when times I'm stressed or they just not listening to me, or we've tried to learn the same lesson over and over and over, and it just doesn't seem to be getting through. Or my biggest trigger point right now at the moment is when my kids fight and bicker and they're just going through this. They're 9 and 12, and I feel like it's the worst it's ever been. And they're fighting and being unkind to one another, and watching each of them trigger one another really triggers me. And so I'm really working on that. So oftentimes I will talk to them in ways that I'm not proud of myself. I will lecture them, which I hate. And so I give myself permission and I give myself forgiveness and I give myself grace on not being that gentle parent in that moment. And I also try not to put that pressure on myself to never lose it with my kids, because let's face it, at the end of the day, we're all human, and placing those kind of expectations is actually not healthy or helpful to you or the way you parent, because unconsciously it will show up in your parenting as yelling at your kids when they make small mistakes, shaming your kids when they mess up, feeling guilty or making your kids feel guilty for not listening to you. And those are all actions that create mistrust and a break in communication between you and your children. So let yourself off the hook as a gentle parent. You do not have to be calm and zen and patient 100% of the time. It's totally okay to make mistakes, because as a gentle parent, you'll also be learning how to take responsibility for your mistakes, and you're going to be modeling that to your kids, because let's face it, your kids are going to make mistakes all day, every day. And as a gentle parent, one of the main pillars of gentle parenting is you create a safe environment to make mistakes. We don't shame people for making mistakes. So when you learn to give yourself permission, it models to your kids on how do we pick ourselves back up when we make mistakes, that it teaches them that it's safe to make mistakes, and it teaches them how to emotionally regulate themselves and seek patience and forgiveness from other people when they have made mistakes. All right, so misconception number 4 is that gentle parenting is not effective. Like it's not going to get the results we want. And so one of the fears that drive this thought is that when I gentle parent, it makes me weak and soft as a parent. Um, and like it's the idea that I have to be in control all the time. I have to steer the ship all the time. And yes, you do have to steer the ship because of the conversation we had about leadership. But, it really depends on what you measure as effective in parenting. If it's immediate compliance, like my kids need to listen to me the first time I tell them something, um, that if that is your measuring stick for effectiveness, then yes, gentle parenting may not be the right type of parenting for you. But if your measuring stick for effectiveness is I want to build trust, I want to build mutual respect, I want to build great communication, then gentle parenting is the right one for you. So, in that sense, gentle parenting is very, very effective because what you're essentially basing your premise when it comes to parenting is that this is a cooperative relationship, right? It's cooperative, meaning we are both in this together and we're going to work together. This is not a top down hierarchical relationship. I can never say that word. Um, and it really sees your child as a conscious entity, right? Meaning that they have their own intuition, that they are whole beings that came into this world with their own purpose and a way to impact the world. Like all of that is already within them, right? Whereas in outside of gentle parenting, like authoritarian parenting, the idea is that I have to shape my kids into successful beings. Like they have to follow a set framework in order to be successful and make money and be happy, right? There's this idea that there is a specific way to become happy and successful in other types of parenting. Whereas in gentle parenting, the idea is that your kids um, have their own purpose, their own gifts, and their own impacts that they want to make in life. And that might be very different to what you believe their purpose needs to be. And as a gentle parent, your job becomes to help them excavate that, right? Through um, conversations, by helping them feel safe when they make mistakes, by helping them feel safe to take risks, by inviting them to make decisions within safe boundaries, and allowing them to explore the world in a way that feels good to them, not in a way that feels safe to you. That's really what gentle parenting is about. And I keep coming back to the word, it's really about helping your kids feel really, really safe to be around you. How do we create safety? We create safety by listening. We create safety by working on ourselves, right? Emotional regulation creates a lot of safety. And safety also comes from modeling, showing our kids instead of telling our kids, right? Imagine you as a learner at work or in any other circumstance. When someone tells you what to do versus showing you what to do, right? The visual element of it or the modeling of it um, makes everything so much simpler and it makes it feel like this is doable, right? As opposed to just giving you a bunch of instructions. And gentle parenting is about also, instead of telling kids what not to do, it's redirecting them on what to do, right? So often disciplining looks like, don't do that, stop it. Or what were you thinking, right? Shaming them. And gentle parenting is, hey, like, why don't you come over here and let's do this? When I ask my kids to turn off screen time when they were younger, it was about helping them transition in an easier way. So kids often throw a fit when it comes to turning off screens because the transition is really hard. That stimulation being turned off feels really, really hard. So having some activity that they can transition into, and obviously giving them 5 minutes to go, 1 minute to go, and now it's time to turn it off, And, instead of you being distracted, like if your child's having a hard time turning it off, like gently getting the screen out of their hands and gently holding the boundary, right? While they might be throwing a fit. When they're throwing a fit, gentle parenting or conscious parenting just sees that tiny little human as having some really big feelings about something that they've been asked to do, right? And having so much compassion and patience and setting aside your own agenda while your child's having a meltdown. And then like relating back to your child, oh, it looks like you're having some really big feelings about turning off the screen time. I get that. It can be really hard. Like let's find you something to do that feels just as fun as screen time, right? And acknowledging their feelings, not just being like, hey, let's get a snack and like completely ignoring the fact that they're having a meltdown. Like you want your child to know, I understand that you're having big feelings about this. I get it. I would too, but let's help you transition, right? And also asking your child for how do they want to regulate themselves? Would you like me to sit here with you while you feel your feelings? Would you like to go get a snack? Would you like to come up with some ideas on how to brainstorm, right? Sorry, would you like to come up with some ideas on what to do next that might feel good? Or do you want to just feel your feelings, right? And they get to pick. So now they're back in control. Even though they're having a hard time with their feelings, they are back in control. They don't feel powerless because you took away their screen time, right? So let me know which one of these like misconceptions, did you resonate with? And has it helped ease some of maybe the anxiety or the stress that you might have felt around your gentle parenting journey? If you love this podcast or if you love this episode in particular, I would love for you to share it with somebody who would this would be really helpful for. All right. I love you guys so much. Have a fantastic week, and I will catch you on the next episode.